What's going on, Social Share Club, and welcome to this new season on the Social Share Club and the jam sessions. And we've got so much lined up for you. I am so excited. In this episode, we have Mr. R.L. Shawver discussing his latest book, For This Child I Have Prayed. And Mr. Shawver, I call him Mr. Shawver in jest. He's a great friend. He'll probably give you a jab for that. But before we jump into that, here is a quick message from our sponsor. Now that we're back from our word from our sponsors, I am sitting here with the wonderful Mr. R.L. Shawver. How you doing, R.L.? Thanks for joining us today, man.
Hey, hey, man, I'm doing well. How are you?
Um, just dandy on this fine Friday. Sun is shining. You're sitting outside. Look at you, man.
Dude, yeah. You know what? I grew up in West Virginia. I don't know. We talked about this a lot of times, man, but just being outside is just part of my. I'm like I have to be. So yeah,
Yeah, you're definitely the outdoorsman. I could learn a thing or two from your outdoor handiwork.
yeah.
But we're not here to talk about the outdoors today. Here to talk about your new book, man.
Yeah.
You started writing this book for this child I have prayed,
Mhm.
and I know that it's weighed on you for quite some time. You want to give us some context about the premise of the book?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my youngest son was like my wife and I had been married about a year when my first son was born. A little under a year, actually. It's pretty awesome. Um, and he was born with two congenital heart defects. We didn't know about any of those when he was born. We just knew he was kind of breathing funny. And long story short, within the next 18 months, he had six open heart surgeries. We ran back and forth to the hospital constantly. It was pretty brutal, and the things it does to a parent are even more so. Like a kid comes through it really joyful. Parent comes through like as they can. You know what I mean? However you arrive is how you arrive. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So, and a lot of it's just really about my perspective, like the faith journey that I came through, the ways that I handled things. Because it's there's not too many things more scary than getting um, you know, having emergency surgery on your infant child. They're doing open heart surgery on a child whose heart is like the size of a walnut. They're going inside his beating heart. It's crazy to me, and they're like not messing things up, not cutting the heart open. It's just crazy. So
So take us through the first emergency. What did that look like for you? That was
so like his first couple months, he was fine. By the way, big shout out to you, Travis. I really appreciate you having me on the show, man. I've admired talking to you for a long time. I remember the first couple times we met. You always had a big smile on your face, and the cool thing is, it's just we've really been able to build a good friendship. So you were actually the first person I wanted to talk to about my book. This is my first book. I never pictured myself as an author, but I had a story to get out there, and so I'm actually just super honored to be on your show. And I hope you don't mind me hijacking it a little bit for that, man. But I gotta talk good about you. People need to know you. People need to know who you are, dude. Um, but yeah, so the question was
Yeah, I appreciate
like,
that.
you can send me a check for $100 later.
I'll write it up now.
So, but you were saying like the first emergency, like
Yeah.
first things that happen.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, so Samuel was born with two problems, but I mean, we really didn't have much. I mean, I was kind of expecting everything to just kind of shake out. Um, and I think he's about 2.5 months old. It was like December. He had Stephanie just knew something was up, and wives have a lot of wisdom. And sometimes we as guys don't really pay attention to that, and it's to our detriment. But Steph just knew something was up. She took him to the pediatrician. He said you should probably go and take him to children's. I was still thinking, yeah, everything's going to be okay. We prayed about this. Everything's going to be awesome. And I was still waking up. She'd already went to the hospital and come back, or she went to the pediatrician and come back, and she wakes me up by yelling, "He's blue, babe. He's blue." And so his lips had turned blue. Something was obviously wrong. We freaked out, called the ambulance. They said they were going to be like 15 minutes getting here, and I was like, uh, "We're 5 minutes from the hospital. Let's just go." So we went to Passivant, and of course, here's this tiny baby, like the size of my notebook, like you know, laying on this huge hospital bed. They're trying to take care of him. We're freaking out because we're like, something's obviously wrong. They're telling us like these heart conditions are problematic, and we're just, you know, we're just trying to stand in faith that he's going to be okay. You know, um, funny thing, we learned that life flight is actually they don't fly in inclement weather, so that was interesting. We had to wait. That was actually why we waited to pass them so long. We waited like an hour and 15 minutes for the life flight team to drive from the south of Pittsburgh to the north of Pittsburgh. And yeah, at pass event, he's on this bed. Don't want to leave him. I mean, literally, like I'm leaning over him for an hour, just my hand on him, praying, singing, whatever.
Wow. And so that one event led to 6 surgeries
Yeah,
over,
set over
well,
18 months.
seven now, but six within
Yeah,
what,
yeah, yeah.
18 months?
Yeah, his first six were 18 months. That was his first one. Um, they had his first surgery. I think it was December 6th. Um, and he was, they went in, they put in a stitch in. I mean, he was too small for a valve replacement. He was 2.5 months old, you
Right.
know? So they went in and put in a stitch. And me being an engineer had a ton of questions. And they were pretty much just like, listen, this is going to get him to where he's big enough to where we can actually do something significant. So it was wild. It was wild.
Keyword significant.
Yeah. Which I mean, that was significant too, like putting a
Right.
stitch in a heart valve.
Yeah.
And just to recap, the two problems he had SVT, severe SVT, and then he had severe mitral valve regurgitation. So to give the non-technical answer, the SVT is basically Wolf Parkinson White is what it's also known as, and it's a short circuit in the heart. The heart will beat double speed. Well, then with the bad mitral valve regurgitation means the valve's not closing all the way. So it's supposed to close to allow the heart to pump blood one direction. When it doesn't close very well, it pumps both directions, which is not good. It's supposed to go one way. So between the two of them, we had tons of, you know, constant emergencies, constant whatever.
Wow. Yeah. Those types of events in people's lives can really do some damage on your mental, on your heart, and whenever those two are suffering, your physical stressors come out as well.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely,
so,
definitely.
where did that lead you in your journey? That was very. It was obviously a difficult time. Last thing you want is seeing your child blue and purple,
Yeah.
and have these things going on. And I mean, what was your next step from there, man?
Well, I mean, realistically in the physical, I mean, all you can do is pursue like all your medical options, but um, for me, it was a faith issue. And part of the reason that I wasn't super concerned about things at the beginning was the fact that I'd prayed his entire Steph's entire pregnancy that Samuel would be strong and that he would be healthy. We prayed a lot for him being strong. I don't know if we prayed as much for being healthy, but I expected him to be okay. What I didn't expect was that journey to him getting okay, what that was going to look like. So from there, it was kind of a crisis of faith. Um, Actually, I texted a mentor when we found, because like as soon as they got him to Children's, they said, "Hey, he's going for emergency surgery." Well, not emergency surgery. I think it was like, "Hey, he's going to surgery within the next day or two." So it wasn't like right now, but it was priority. I texted a mentor. He gave me a bunch of book recommendations. Hey, listen, you're going to need to stand on your faith, basically. And Psalm 91, he pointed that one out and said, "Listen, dig into that." So from there, I started to read over, and the books were, oh gosh, the books were basically about laying claim to God's promises of faith, in faith, you know, and so that was really what it was about. It was about starting to say, "Hey, God said this, I'm going to expect it." You know what I mean? And that's where my journey began. It's not where it is. I won't say it ended on that, but it did end on that. In a kind of way that kind of looped back around to that. But I mean, I learned a lot of things in the process as well.
What were some of the things that you feel that the lessons that you learned?
That's why I wrote the book, man.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, that's why I wrote the book. But I mean, like, actually, I pulled out my original list. You know, gosh, I mean, one of the things that really in any endeavor, it's persistence. Hey, I'm going to this, and I'm not going to be stopped. And really, your faith journey is no different. It's saying, hey, listen, God said this. I'm not going to let it go. He says that our children, um, the children of the righteous will grow mighty in the land. And that was actually my first confession. That was the first thing that I stood on. That, like, I confessed that I'm over him every time something came at me and said, "Hey, whether it was a doctor giving a bad report, whether it was when they told me had he been born 30 years earlier that they would have sent him home to die with us. That's pretty shocking as a parent. You know,
That is
um,
shocking.
yeah, um, and it would have been quick too. It would have been like, hey, he gets to less than a year. It's, just scary. Um, but you know, and even worse, like as a parent, and I hear a lot of moms and dads both say this, especially moms. I could see my child doing this. I could see my child doing this and getting hurt. I could see my child doing this, and they envision all kinds of stuff. And a certain amount of that vision is like wisdom, like understanding that if your child does this, then this can happen. But then there's a certain amount of it where it starts to become worry, where it starts to become dwelling. And when your child's going through heart surgery after heart surgery, emergency visit after emergency visit, those things start to get scary. I saw visions of Samuel, like us burying Samuel, him dead. Um, and I knew what those visions were. They were actually literally spiritual attacks. And so one of the first things that I had to do was learn to deal with fear, learn to deal with those visions, learn to deal with that stuff and say, no, um, God said that the children of the righteous will grow strong in the land. And I'm just going to stand on that, you know?
Absolutely. You know, having that faith bone, right? And there's the faith muscle, and
Yeah.
if you don't use it, it atrophies. You know,
Yeah.
you don't build your faith bone. Uh, little, I don't want to say little things, but things it can be crumbled. much easier.
100%.
So,
Even when Samuel went and had his like seventh surgery, I knew there was a certain amount of like, I had not operated in that level. I had not exercised that faith bone very much. To sorry, there's a fly flying around here, man. He wants to join our podcast. But I hadn't exercised that very much. So with neighbor kids are saying, hey,
because you're
um,
popular.
I guess, man, I guess. But I hadn't exercised that faith bone very much, and
Hmm.
it was a matter of like strengthening that faith bone, like up until this last surgery. And I cover that in the book too, like this last surgery and how like I strengthened my faith bone. And like, I mean, some of it doesn't need strengthening per se, as much as just like you need to deal with the emotions, which you haven't dealt with in a while. You know?
Mm. Yeah, digging through that old junk pile, and
Yeah,
that's really that's what I feel like. Whenever I'm dealing with the emotions, like I got this crap. I gotta
yeah,
get the junk out and find
yeah,
out the emotions that will help you flex your faith muscle.
yeah. Because
So
that's really what the faith muscle is about. It's like standing in the face of the emotions, standing in the face of like things that are saying things are going to go a different way. It's into standing against the voice in your own head that's saying this is not going this way. You know?
yeah, you essentially already visualized you burying him. That was
Well, I don't think that was me.
well. It wasn't you, right?
Right?
It wasn't you. It was a thought. It was
Yeah.
the upward battle. We you see things. I'll give an example. Where right whenever COVID broke out, my mom tested positive, and she's a nurse, and she was just around my grandma, and I'm on the phone with her, and she was already acting as though my grandma had passed. Like it was in reality, she was in all actuality not even contagious. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, she's already buried my grandma in her head. In her head,
Right.
and having that detriment, it's not a fun place to be, right? You're
Yeah.
like, oh, this little thing happened. I don't want to say that that's a little thing, dealing with
Right.
heart surgeries, but things happen, and we're in our minds, we're already 5 steps down the rabbit hole and thinking of the worst.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, realistically, we all deal with it, and it's not weak or wrong to have those thoughts because, like, if in fact you're not going to have those thoughts unless you are strong. You know what I mean? Because in my personal opinion, I mean, that's the personification of fear itself, like coming at you and saying, "Listen, I want to lead you down this path of fear, worry, doubt." You know, but what what determines how you handle it and what's going to happen, and that's your choice, not fear's choice.
Yeah. Missy Brown just chiming in. Hey Travis, keep up the good work. I miss you. RL, proud of you, and I hope you continue to prosper and bring light to people. So,
Awesome. Thanks, Missy.
yeah, yeah, she's another beacon, right? So
Yeah.
keep our light shining and keep moving forward and empowering people. Now,
Yeah.
you found, you say through mentorship, right? That
Yeah.
was you found new breath of life, and um, learn how to combat some of the things in the spiritual realm, huh?
Very much. Very much.
It takes a different type of sword to.
It does, man. It really does. You know. Um. Gosh. I tell you what, man. Like I said, I'm super pumped to be on here. I've been thinking about all this stuff and what I'm going to say, how I'm going to cover it, and like I said, you're literally my first. I pulled out my list of ideas, like the things that I wanted to get in my book,
Yeah.
and we've spent 20 minutes covering number one of that book. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because dude, I mean, it's just you know, it's like if you're say, hey, listen, I'm going to be I'm playing football and I want to make it to the playoffs.
Hmm.
There's a journey to get there, and your choice journey to make that journey to actually get there, you lay out a plan, you go with it, or you lay out a direction, you kind of make a plan, you get punched in the face a couple of times, and then you start figuring out how things really work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was really my journey. It's just like, I learned a ton of stuff along the way, about the things that absolutely are weapons of warfare in the spiritual realm. And I hate to even use that, because like everybody thinks here's like spiritual realm and like even prayer, faith, like all that stuff. They hear that stuff and they think it's something that's like, out there, scary, mystical, and like it's not. I mean, we have that in all of us. We see and we interact with it, and you know, I just want, I want to make it a little less weird if I can. If not, then just think of me as a weirdo. I'm used to that. Travis can attest to that one.
You're not a weirdo. You're not a weirdo. No, having strong faith, there's nothing wrong with that. Not at all.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
and
no.
in today's world, things can get a little cloudy, but a person's relationship with himself, one, and
Hmm.
two, with their source, their founder, their God, if it's grounded in, it needs to be grounded in love and light and happiness, and being able to build people up. So,
Yeah.
and that's what we're here for, right? I want to shift gears a little bit.
Please, 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 please.
So, for me, the writing process is
Yeah.
important, right? It's not just the content, but how you stepped into this. First, you obviously you felt it on your heart, and it's got to move from the heart to the head,
Hmm.
and from the head to the hands,
Right.
or the feet,
Right.
make moving, right, going into the a thought loop into the do loop.
Right.
So, what did that look like for you, man? Whenever you were,
Do you care if I start out with a little bit of why?
yeah, absolutely.
You know, um, Realistically, you know, when it comes to sharing a message, we all have things that we've learned that we're experts in. I truly believe that. And I like quoting John Maxwell, and he says that the experience is not the best teacher. Someone else's experience is the best teacher. I would
Hmm.
much rather be able to say, hey, here's my book and how I dealt with these issues. And you read it, then you have to live through them to learn the things that I learned. And that's why I wanted to get it. I mean, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that. That's fine. You know, you have to pay to actually get it. You know what I mean? It's no big deal. But part in the why, like one of the things I've been contemplating a lot. Like someone can give you advice, and advice is a lot of people say advice is cheap, but somebody can give you advice, and if you respect them, you'll listen to it. If you really respect them and you're adamant about getting what they've got or where they're coaching you, you'll take the advice and apply it. But that's really hard, as an author, as a guy who's really just a nobody from West Virginia, a big dude who can't even spell his own name. He has to go by two initials. Um, you know, what do you want that I have? Oh yeah, I'm sure some people want some things that I've got, and that's great. But realistically, what I've seen that really changes people, it's a lot easier for people to accept something and move forward with it, is to hear a story. Like if you hear someone's experience, their emotional, gut wrenching experience, and the decisions they made, and you see the results of those decisions, it's at that point that you start to say, hey, I want to accept this, And I don't think I knew that when I started, Travis. I knew that, there's a verse in Revelations, and forgive me for quoting the Bible, like this is the way I go, but there's a verse of Revelations that actually talks about that um, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And that has a lot of big words that honestly I couldn't even begin to touch. But what that's telling me is that testimony, aka your story of how God's interacted with you, is something special that affects people. So I wanted to be able to say, hey, listen, here's my story. I hope you get to tell yours. And then as far as the writing process, the how, it was just, hey, I'm going to start doing it. I decided to start doing it. The story was really easy. I don't have to make up some outline. I don't have to make up um, anything. I just have to start spitting it out because I lived it. You know what I mean? Um, and I wrote it. Actually, wrote like I voice dictated it while I was driving, like the entire book. Um, I mean, a very short version of the book, but the book. Went back through on my lunch breaks, and I started, fleshing it out. Like I'd listen to it, write it out. Okay, this needs some better story. I actually wrote the entire, probably 30,000 words worth of book in probably about 5 or 6 months. Off and on, working a full-time job, doing it lunches, taking a break to actually pass some exams. Um, and then I sent it out to some friends. I sent it out to a group of 20 people, and a number of them came back with feedback, which I'm eternally grateful for. And they sent the feedback to me, and I was like, wow, there's some good feedback here. I really need to rethink this. And then I took a break for a couple months because it was like January, work was super stressful. And about the time I was about to start hitting, like working on it again, COVID hit. And I'm actually really glad I didn't work on it at the time because I get shifted my schedule. Now I'm working from home, then I switched to another job. Um, but at the same time, the biggest questions about my book and the biggest advice that I got about my book was not so much like the story, but why did you make the decisions you made? How did you come about the things that you came about? Um, you know, and so I spent a lot of time thinking. Started meeting with a couple guys of faith, and we would just talk about stuff. But one of the things when I would talk about what happened and how it, like, to put it in perspective. There were three phases to my book, and three phases to the story. Well, three phases to the story in the book. The first phase was like just getting my bearings and trusting that God's going to fight my battles for me, and that was the first three open heart surgeries, same as first 6 months. And then from March until November was the second phase, and it's not a very long phase in the book, but there was a lot of personal growth in that. And actually, I take you through a lot of the personal growth, a lot of the books that I read, a lot of the struggles that I had, that I came. And what I really learned in that period was just how much God loves me and how much God loves you. And I really just worked on my self image. And then the last phase, and this was what I had to think about and contemplate the most. Um, I felt like the Holy Spirit told me something pretty radical. And I felt like He told me that, I started standing on God, you're going to fight my battles for me. And I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, no. I mean, not that He wasn't going to fight with me, but I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, I want you to fight. Okay, what does that mean? What does that look like? And even to this day, I could, I don't know if I could fully flesh it out, but I have a lot better picture of what that is. And that's where it came in, that period during COVID of just not really writing much, just thinking it through. And then it was, I think it was about, like, I'd started working on it in maybe June, July. Gosh, maybe even been later than that. But eventually I started working on it again, worked back through it, and it actually got to actual novel length, 50,000 words, put 20,000 words in. Just continuing to my lunch breaks in the mornings before work, something like that. Just spending 30 minutes to an hour, 4 or 5 days a week. Whenever I had time,
Mm.
working on a book, fleshing it out. Keeping a good list, keeping a detailed list. Actually, I wrote everything in OneNote. Microsoft, you can send me the royalty checks to my address. Actually, it's a program. It's actually pretty. In a lot of places, it's free if you have any type of Microsoft distribution. But in that, like, I have a page for every chapter. From when I first started, I have all the copies. I throw the actual Microsoft Word in there. I keep notes and checklists. Actually, in fact, that's what I'm looking at right now. It's just like, hey, this is. I looked at my original list of the things that I felt like I'd learned. You know, so that brought me to getting an actual manuscript. I self edited it, and then I rewrote it, and then I self edited it for this main purpose of not that I thought I could catch the grammar, but that I could actually. I wanted to make sure I liked the flow. Now it's actually in an editor. A great friend of mine, Tony Shoup, she's actually editing it for me, um, and she's editing it. There are three publishing routes for books. There is the. Do you mind if I go in that? You don't mind if I?
Please.
Okay, cool. There's three publishing routes. And I know with you, you talking about some stuff like this is, I guess, good for you.
Yeah.
Um, and the bad thing is I can't tell you the results of it. I'm just telling you that I'm doing it, so you'll get to see the results later down the road. Um, but there's three publishing routes. There's like self-publishing. You out and get the book printed and start advertising it and stuff like that. There's the traditional publishing route, where a big name publisher grabs you. I haven't tried that route. I thought about it, but I don't know if I could negotiate the deal that I want. I'd much rather make a lot more money on me, type of thing. And I think we're all that way, for good reason. And then the third route was like a hybrid publisher where I'm actually paying out of pocket for everything, a la carte. Um, I got connected with a buddy of mine, Michael Butler. He's actually the one doing the publishing. Um, and so from there, it's been cover design. A good buddy of mine, James Cornett. He actually put the cover together. Actually, the cover is pretty exciting. I don't know if you're throwing that up anywhere.
One
I can't hear
second,
you.
I can get that up here. Let me switch over.
Yeah.
Pull that up here.
Um,
One
and then
second.
my buddy Kevin Vertuccio, I could not let me say his last name. He's doing my website for me, and he does some pretty incredible work too. Um, so, I mean, none of this process has been, I mean, other than the actual work, none of this process has been a process I've done alone. Like, it's something you do with the team.
Yeah.
Even if the team's just people on Facebook who say, "Hey, I like you, I want to help you out," or "Hey, I saw your story, I want to be involved in what you're doing." It's pretty cool. To cover up.
Yeah, I'm just showing the Facebook page. Here's
Nice.
the header. Here's the book cover, the proof here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Which one are you showing? Because there's actually two book covers. I got about 50-50 split on which book cover they wanted. So I decided to go both.
Okay.
Um, the picture of Samuel, we are going to do that for the hardback, and I think for the digital copy as well. And then for the paperback, we're going to do the picture that James drew and put together. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and they're both really exciting to me, man. It's so close to be. It's so exciting to be this close. Pre-sale should actually start within the next week on Amazon, and then I can officially announce now that release date is September 6th, when it'll start getting into people's hands. So that's exciting. And I mean, that's been pretty much the writing process for me. I'm curious to see how well it's going to do. I figured I'd book myself on some podcasts. I'm getting some people to review the book right now. Travis, you're one of them. I'll hit you up, and actually, you're helping me out a ton.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of it's you know people helping people, which is the entire premise of so much of what you do,
For sure.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love helping people.
But I mean,
Love
even social
helping
share
people.
club, it's social share club. The whole point of it is like people being social and helping share what they're doing.
Right. I love talking to my friends about their projects. That is like one of my favorite things because then I'm kid in a candy store. I really
You
am.
know that. Go ahead.
You and I have talked about different strategies, and I just kind of dive in and you know
Yeah,
have some really good conversations, and um, there might be a special audio version of your book, huh?
yeah, yeah. We're talking about that. Actually, you're gonna help me out on that one, um, which will be exciting. You
Yeah,
know, And speaking of liking stuff, dude, and forgive me, I'm gonna laud you a little bit, dude. You just won an award, didn't you?
I did. I did. Yeah, it was a shocker. I wasn't expecting. So I got this bad boy over here. So it's the
Marsum.
Marsum. Yeah,
Yeah, we
it's,
talked about this. We Travis and I talked for everybody else. Travis and I talked about this beforehand, and dude, I'm so excited for him. Top 100 marketers. So hard to get it on camera.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
marketing and advertising leaders.
so, there we go. It's big boy,
It is a
big
big
boy.
boy. It is a big boy. You know what? And it's just a market things to come for you, man. Like as you continue to grow and to prosper and to do exactly what you love, helping people
Yeah,
get their businesses out there, talk about their projects. Like, why it's why you won that, and it's why you'll continue to win awards, and it's why you continue to make lots of money for people. You know?
yeah. In you know, whenever I deal with companies, they want to work on the project. They want to work on their business, not in their business.
Yep.
I've got clients that all over the place, the different industries from retail to business and government, and it varies throughout. The one thing in common is they want to work on their business, not necessarily
Yeah.
in their business. And there's a
Yep.
huge differentiator. There's things that need to happen in the back end, especially for marketing and advertising and setting up your media that you may not totally grasp, um, but finding people that are good at what they do in those specific areas. I last season I met with Sean Riffle. He's CFO. he's
Hmm.
he's works for a CFO company,
Okay.
and that was a big message in our jam session. Was you know focus on what you want to do inside of your business and do it great. You do it above and beyond.
Yeah.
But handling the different gears and levers that people can do much better. In life, I say you're either going to spend time or you're going to spend money.
Yep.
You know,
And it's
is
and
your
it's and honestly, what's your time worth? You
right,
know? I mean, if your time's worth, say you feel like you're worth $100 an hour, which I can guarantee you are. Um, like, why spend $100 an hour on 17 hours worth of doing something when you can hire somebody for 10 hours at $100 an hour who can get it done?
right,
It's a financial decision. Hey,
yeah,
are we able to go to a commercial break?
yeah. Let me pull up a commercial, man.
Okay.
Ready for commercial, and we're off.
Invest in your company.
have a mindset of curiosity. And so there can be a lot of pressure to perform. It's like, I really want to make this dream happen.
There's an understanding of mental health and well-being that people don't really realize.
Exercise is the best medicine that there is.
You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta believe you can do it. You gotta push. You gotta want it.
Adding to positive conversation and elevating everybody's vibration on some level.
I should have done it sooner because you've taken so much burden off me. You've taken so much time that I've wasted off my plate.
You've got to take that leap of faith and step a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
What is going on, Social Share Club? Travis here, and I've got a special episode. But without further ado, grab the like button.
Hey, welcome back. I'm here with RL Shawver, and we are jamming out, having a great conversation about RL's upcoming book. When's the release date on that again, RL?
September 6th is the official release date. Pre-sale should start within the next week.
Okay, September 6th.
Yeah.
You can find, if you go on Facebook, you can just search for this child I have prayed, and it will come up. Make sure you follow it.
Yeah, you can go to rlshawver.com. That's coming up too. Like, that's officially live. So if somebody wants to hop on there, we're still fleshing it out and cleaning it up, but it's there as well.
rlshawver.com. Just dropping it in the comments here on the.
Yeah, and to spell my last name, because nobody can spell it right, it's SHAWV, like in West Virginia, ER.
I got it right.
I know you did, because you're my buddy, man. But I can guarantee you, dude, we've had so many random mail, random stuff with random, whatever. Nobody can spell my last name.
Well, it's the extra zig, I think, that throws people.
Dude, we've had, I think the best was Shawver, SCHWABBER. That one was fun.
My last name gets butchered quite often. Not too many people. So Lotolinsky.
Yeah.
It's It looks like Lobo. The D's look like B's. People just give up after 3 syllables.
So is it pronounced Lobolinsky?
Lodo.
Lodolinsky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just too many consonants, too many vowels.
Is it Polish?
It's Polish.
Is it Polish? Yeah,
so this is the most Polish thing that my great grandfather did. The name wasn't actually Lotolinsky coming over from Poland. Lotolinsky apparently is Americanized. The most Polish thing that my family has done is they changed their name from Podobienski to Lotolinsky because it sounded more American.
Dude, that's amazing. That is amazing. Dude, I always think about, like, Coach Krzyzewski, Coach K. Like, you don't spell his name that way. It's like Krasinski or something like that, but it's pronounced Krzyzewski.
It's K-R-Y-Z. I'm lost from there. But yeah. It just doesn't read K.
No.
There's one K sounding thing in there, and it's not at the beginning.
Yes.
It's not.
Oh, dude. People's names are so fun.
They really are. And it's important, to take pride in your name, and whenever we get to heaven, that's how they will call us by our name.
I don't even think about that, but you're right.
Yep. I'll say it right here. Yeah, moving forward and building out something, it's being creative, it, and moving from a thought loop to a do loop is incredibly important. As you're finding and you found, right? This is
Yeah.
things. It's not always about what you're doing. It's just sometimes it's just doing it, right? We have enough time to sit and think about what we want to say and what we want to do. It's putting things to action.
Yeah.
So I commend you for even for putting this book together, because moving from that thought loop that weighed in on your heart and your mind, um, you know, it's it's very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable place to be.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the marketing groups we've been a part of, they've talked a lot about is authenticity. And really, authenticity is just, being real with people, as people like to say. Being marketable is really being vulnerable. It's being, not trying to be something you're not. It's just being who you are, which means you have weaknesses and strengths. So the vulnerability part, like I'm super appreciative that I've practiced it. And I appreciate the kudos, man. But like, a lot of people are like, I don't. A lot of parents have told me, I don't know how you did. You got through things. They're saying because they saw it. And people I worked with, they saw it every day. I mean, I'd show up to work. My work gave me like they didn't give me tons of time off. They gave me my vacation time and my sick time, and any days that I had off, and anything else I had to negotiate with, or else I just had to show up. I had work I had to show up and do. And when you're constantly like, you know, in the hospital, an average of a week a month, if you're having, a surgery every 3 months on average, if you're, all different times and random times, it can be crushing. But like both like living through that whole process, as well as writing the book, both of them just came from necessity. You know, like I feel like difference the only leg up that I had on anybody else who's been through that is um, I actually had two legs up. I had my faith, and I had other people coaching me, and I knew to listen to them. But through that relationship with my heavenly Father, and through that relationship with other people, like I got through it. And realistically, like the book, I mean, even it came out of it. The last job I was with was just super. It just wasn't a good time. I don't like to talk too bad about people, but it wasn't a good time. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't healthy. And I needed to get out of my job. So I tried a couple different things, and the book just seemed like low hanging fruit. Let's just chase this to ground, you know. Um, and now it's ready. So all of it was born in necessity, man. I don't know if I get too much credit other than, sitting here with you and choosing a good guy to hang out with.
Talking about more low hanging fruit.
It's true, man. It's true. And the cool thing is like just by being friendly with people, and this as well as I do, like just by being friendly with people, just being real, just being who you are, like you gain, like that is the essence of networking. And like people, it's amazing once you start networking who is in your network and what they have and what they can help you out with.
Right. And being genuine, authenticity, those types of things. Whenever those characteristics come out and are
Mm-hmm.
ingrained in you, you know, accessing your network makes things so much easier. Speaking of network, Miss Karen Scott Taylor, and she says, one of the best people I know. Ah, Karen. Love Karen.
I agree. Travis is one of the best people I know.
Ah!
Dude, actually, the great thing, and huge shout out to Dane and Karen. Huge shout out to Dane and Karen. And I'm actually glad she hopped up and said something because I'm going to talk good about them. Because I know she's been on here for
Yeah.
one with her business, Little Things Pittsburgh. I
Little
should
Things
know.
Pittsburgh. Yep.
Yes, I remembered. Karen won't slap me later. But two, you know, like I hope I brought it out well enough in the book, and I want to brag on them for a little minute. It's actually some research that I've done, but like one of the things I wanted to get out in the book is like, how do you handle when your friend is going through tragedy, sickness, death, whatever, you know? And I feel like we as a culture, we avoid it, or worse, we do damage with it. Like most people will come up to you and say, "Well, God's got a plan," or like, God's designed this, and I don't believe any of those are accurate biblically. Um, People will say stuff like, "Well, I don't know." They say all kinds of dumb things, you know. But we had a lot of people who were very helpful and very caring and did not say stupid things. But
That helps.
um, we did. It does help. But one of the people who did it the best, Dane and Karen, would show up. They would call us, and they did this perfectly. I actually found an article because Karen's Jewish about how the Jews actually teach this to their people. How do you deal with people who are going through sickness? And like, she's never read the article. She didn't write the article, but she lived it out, which tells me that they've taught their people well. And what she would do is they'd call us up probably at least once a week. Hey, what are you guys doing? You care if we bring you dinner? You care if we come hang out with you? And they would show up at the hospital. And the crazy thing is they would show up. They would talk about. I mean, they might ask a couple questions and updates, but they didn't give us platitudes. They didn't tell us how good things are going to be. They didn't even offer to pray with us. But they'd show up and they would be there. And dude, I got to be honest. A lot of times, like we probably hadn't showered because we didn't care. We were probably in our pajamas because we're sitting in a hospital room. You know, we weren't good company. We were sitting there sometimes just staring at the wall because our little boy was going through heart surgery after heart surgery after heart surgery. You know, but they came and they showed up, and sometimes they would just stare at the wall with us. They told me so many times we did not know if we were even doing the right thing, but they were, and they're such a great example of that. And when somebody's dealing with that much pain in their life, like the words you say, I mean, there's a good possibility that the words you say will actually be hurtful because they're in pain. And like, even if you're putting your hand on somebody on a spot that's like in pain, like even if you're gentle, you can still hurt them because that spot's in pain, and that's the way the words can be taken. And you does that make sense? Me saying it
Yeah.
that way? Like if you walk up to somebody and their arm's broken, and you gently put their skin's burnt, and they're like in bad pain, if you put your arm gently on where that burn is, it's still going to hurt because they're in that much pain. And that's the way words can be taken when people are dealing with that emotional stuff. But if you just show up and like be there, and it just absolutely can change the trajectory. They were just so solid for me. So, and I know Karen's probably blushing a ton of
Yeah.
shades of red, and Dane's probably going, "Thanks, RL."
She said, "We didn't care either. We love you guys. We just wanted to do something, anything." And I
Yep.
think from a friend standpoint, I mean, for me, so many of my friends and family have been through, very trying times with their kids, and some very similar things that you've encountered. And from my perspective, it's just like I feel like my hands are tied. For what
Yeah.
can I do? And just being there.
Being there. Yeah.
That's
And you,
all you can do when you can just be there.
yeah. Be there. Be an ear. Bring some
Yeah.
food. and
Bring food.
pray and stand in faith.
Hmm.
I actually, the back cover on the book, one of the things that I wanted to start out with was the questions people had. Like, you know, I've had so many parents tell me like I would protect my child from anything, and I know what they mean. Like literally, like a speeding truck, a bear, a tiger, like armies. Like parents are ingrained to like destroy and protect for their children, and it's good. It's a good thing. But like, how do you deal with something you can't attack, something you can't fix on your own? How do you deal with that?
When the fight's out of
And
your
that's
hands.
but then the fight's not out of your hands. It's just
Well,
not the fight. Yeah,
that that physical fight, right?
exactly. The physical fight is out of your hands. And that's the number one reason why I wanted to write this book is like there's still a fight to be had. And that fight is in the realm of faith because like, dude, when I read the Bible and like what I read about what God says about you and me is that we're created in his image
Mm.
and that um we're a little lower. Like I was reading Psalm 8 this morning and then probably because of this conversation. But like it says, there's two different translations. One of them says we're a little lower than angels, but another translation says we're actually a little lower than God. And it's different translations. I'm sure there's some great theological scholars who can tell me which one, whatever. But what that tells me, the Holy Spirit's telling me, is that like for whatever reason, God has chosen to make us super powerful. And one of the prevailing messages of the gospel is the power that is given to us, the power and the authority that's given to us. So we have power and authority through the name of Jesus to affect change in the physical through the spiritual. And that's why I wanted to get a book out there because I know how painful the spirit experience is, but I also know that we're not helpless. There are things we can do, and there's a difference we can make.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Sorry,
the difference that
if you don't mind, I get bold.
the difference that the audience, if you're listening to this right now, head on over to on Facebook for this child I've prayed. Make sure you like the page, follow it, so that way you get all the updates from RL. You can also go to rlshawver.com and sign up there as well. I dropped that link into the comments a little bit ago if you want to check that out. Or if you're watching this on another platform, we're streaming this live right now. And talking with some of our viewers, want to thank everyone for popping in. It's always great to get feedback. And while I'm jamming out with my boy RL over here, straight out of West Virginia.
In
Well,
Pittsburgh now.
in Pittsburgh now. In Pittsburgh now.
Yeah.
So
But I am from West Virginia. I can't forget my roots, man.
that's right.
It took me a while to learn to wear shoes, Travis.
Well, you showed up in boots. You bring your roots.
I knew it. That song was in my head too. Like
It was, yeah,
I can't really.
it was sitting right there. I had to
It
pick
is.
that one up.
I'm glad you did, because I was thinking it.
Ruined someone's black tie affair. All right, I'm done with that. That's a beaten horse.
You're gonna have me singing, man, and you do. I don't know. I guess I can sing okay, but you don't really. That's not why you're here in this podcast.
We'll end on some show tunes.
Yes, yes.
So good.
Actually, I have a pretty good country voice. But who else watching, man? That's exciting.
Just people been popping in and out here. We're just on the top of the hour mark. We had Missy, we had Karen. This episode will be up on replay on Social Share Club Facebook group. I'll get this uploaded up on YouTube as well.
Nice.
So we'll get that rolling. So.
And you were talking too about you got a new thing I've been seeing pop up on Facebook too with some new marketing stuff on Wednesday nights.
Yeah. So hopefully you can join us this coming Wednesday for our open marketing weekly workshop. So
Okay.
bringing in a lot of my friends and special guests and businesses and business owners and the marketing leaders that trying to accomplish more marketing training. Um, a lot of people struggle with voice, and first person, second person writing for a billboard is very different than writing for training manuals. It's,
Yeah.
it's a different perspective, and um, I want to share all the different perspectives that I work with many of my clients with, and help people hone their skills, bring them up to speed on a lot of the different marketing systems that can really simplify their life. People say, "Well, why can't this happen?" Well, sometimes it can happen. You're using a fork instead of a spoon, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
it, it
Yes.
just comes down to the tools and how to use them. And so bring in so many of my friends. And I say friends, these people are freaking rock stars in writing and marketing tools and chatbots and programming and business systems and operational goals and tasks and yeah, it's
That's a big wide range of people, man.
it really is. And I so bring people into the social share club to share their story, but I also invite my guests over into the open marketing weekly workshops. So that way,
Now, what time is that on Wednesday, by the
so
way?
that's going to be 8 p. Eastern
Okay.
Standard Time. So I know a
Nice.
lot
And you
of
can
some of the listeners on here are in different time zones, so
and I can sign up on your Facebook and
you can
get in
sign
that way.
up over on Trav if you go to www.trav.media. You can
Okay.
just sign up right there. There's a little widget where you can uh, read more information. We have a special right now, and we'll probably keep this going for a while. Where it is $15, which isn't much. Uh, bring three people or bring a guest. I'll give you $5 back. Bring three guests, up to three guests. You'll get $15 back, so you're getting it for free. I'll give you your money back. It doesn't. I'm here to help and educate people. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. 25 seats, right? And
Nice.
brings a whole new dynamic and networking and yeah. So I hope to see a lot of little sub trainings come off of this and
Yeah.
be able to support community. So
Yeah. Which is what you do and what you do
just what I
well.
do. I love teaching and having people
Yeah.
teach and learning. I'm not just a teach, teach, teach. I need to be in a thought loop and
Yeah.
a learn loop, right? In order
Yeah.
to bring it into a do loop where I'm working with people and helping them with a lot of their marketing strategies and getting them organized. Being the giving them structure. I love working with many different companies right now on helping them structure. It's like herding mice. They're just all over the place and gotta
Yeah.
set up set up
But that's the
boxes.
great thing about them hiring people like you, Travis, especially you, is that you can come in and help them go from like shotgunning, wasting so much time, wasting so much money, because that's really what it is when you don't have somebody who knows what they're doing like you do, Mr. Top 100. Um, that like when you don't have somebody who has that expertise, like you really there's so much waste. A lot of people think that like cost wise, like it's cheaper to do it myself. There are some times that it is cheaper to do yourself, and there are some times where there's that opportunity cost. Like, yeah, you got it done, great, you checked that box, but did it really bring you what you want? And marketing is one of those things. It's like if you're not doing it right, if you don't bring in somebody who knows what they're talking about, like, dude, you're just not going to make money. Who cares if you check the box and you market it on Facebook? Like, you can actually do it wrong. You can actually put the wrong ads out there and drop people away from your products. Like,
Yeah.
you can do the. It's just it's a nuanced technique thing. Somebody who's an expert.
Right. I've had friends, even recently, he says, starting this company, and they've got, they their goal is to be better than this other company. Well, I first thing I do is kind of a overall brand audit, right? And
Right.
just what do you have, and what they had, the quality of the content, I will say, was not on the level. Like, you plan on being better than X company. Well, your messaging has to be better. Your visuals have to be better. Um, your actions have to be better. And
Yeah.
when it doesn't follow, when those things don't follow suit, and you're just like, well, why can't I be better than X company? Well,
Yeah.
there's a list, and not to mention, especially if they've been around longer, they've got
Yeah.
empirical data that shows that they're good, and people will pay for their service, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's crazy.
Dude,
It's crazy.
how much time do we have? How much time do we
We've
have?
got a few minutes here to wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, have you seen the show Undercover Billionaire? Random topic. I figure we're doing a podcast. We can talk about random stuff, right?
Yeah, let me see. Who was just on there?
The season was
Grant
Grant
Cardone was just on
Cardone.
it.
Yeah, actually, I've been thinking a lot about him being on there, man. In 90 days he built a business worth. And forgive me, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the end of the show, in I'm giving the spoiler now. Keep you waiting. In 90 days, he built a business worth $5 million.
Wow.
$5 million marketing, just doing marketing, doing what he knows, what he's
Yep.
good at. But dude, I mean, like, what that tells me is that marketing's worth something. Like, he was gaining contracts that they were literally paying him, $8 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month. Because he was willing to go out there and do advertising and marketing for people. And yeah, so it challenges me because I'm just like, that's awesome, man. I want to do that. That's cool. I'm not going to because I have people like you.
I caught Grant on Clubhouse talking about that.
Really?
Yeah, that was really interesting. Funny thing.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, like, well, he did not get along with the media staff.
Okay.
It also didn't help that he sold the media van. He sold their van. Sold their van.
Dude, when you give a man a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right?
I mean, that's what he does.
He's like, what assets do I have right now?
It's so funny.
He sold their van.
That's so funny.
It's like, all right, guys. Yeah, that's not yours anymore. So.
Are you talking about the truck the SUV that he sold?
Yeah.
They were using that as the van.
Yeah. That was
hysterical.
That was their media vehicle.
Yeah, they went out and they bought like this. I mean, gosh, it was an old SUV. I think he ended up getting like $3 or $4 grand out of it. You know what I mean? Like, it was a Suburban that he got $3 or $4 grand out of. Which, if you know anything about cars, that was an old, beat up Suburban. If somebody's selling it for a couple grand, you know what I mean? And I didn't realize that's what they were using for their production van.
It was a production vehicle.
Hysterical. That's hysterical. Because like that was part of the bet. Like, they had $100, a cell phone with no contacts, and a truck. Because it was after season 1, Glenn Stearns did it, and he didn't hit his goal. He only had like a $750,000 business in 90 days only. which is actually a restaurant in Erie, which we're going to go see soon.
Wow.
You guys want to meet Samuel? You got time
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah. Let's say hi to Samuel real quick.
Yeah. Samuel, come here, bud. Come here. He's 6 and he's learned the word no.
Yeah.
So that's to tell me off. I guess you guys won't be meeting Samuel. Samuel, you want to say hi to everybody?
He's not having it.
Guess not. He's not having it.
Maybe
All
in
right.
time.
Yeah, you can see his pictures out there. See his videos. Yeah.
He'll warm up to the camera maybe a little bit. Once things get a little bit hotter.
He wants to wait till I'm on the phone with one of my bosses. Then he starts to just jump in and say, "Dad, let me say hi." Samuel, go ahead and play. Sorry.
Cool. Well, Mr. Shawver, we are at the top of our time here. I want to thank you for your time and
Travis,
joining me,
thank
man.
you, man.
Yeah, have a blast and always great conversations with you, buddy.
Always a great time, man. Always a great time. Looking forward to rewatching this and laughing at my voice, laughing with you. Um, Always an honor to talk to you, man. Always an honor.
Yeah, we tend to have some very good. Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Samuel, he says, "What's up? You want to say hi?"
You say hi?
He,
No,
he's
it's all
he's
right.
upset because he is grounded. He's,
Oh,
yeah.
Daddy only grounds because he cares.
Hey, Samuel. Travis says that I only ground you because I care, which is very accurate. You want to? All right. You can either say hi, you can go out and play, or you can go back inside. The fun's of working from home, right, during a pandemic.
Right.
All right, Travis.
All right, RL, thanks for joining me. And if you haven't already, hit the like, follow, comment below, and we will see you on the next jam session inside the Social Share Club. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. All right, take care now. Bye.